Hello and welcome to the ROKER Report podcast in association with Sunderland Community Soup Kitchen. My name is Rich Spate and I'm joined down the line from Sheffield by Chris Wynn. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Couple of days to reflect, so should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind couple of days. I've kind of missed football a little bit. We're also joined by Craig Chapman as well from the North East. How are you today, Craig?
Yeah, all good. I think I've sobered up fully enough now. Anxiety has gone from Monday, so looking forward to reflect on it. I think we've done the right thing to hold off a couple of days so we can, calm ourselves down somewhat. But all good.
Yeah, I had to have a night off the booze last night. I was starting to feel it. Bank holiday weekend was catching up with me. I'm not as young as I used to be, but we had a good weekend overall. Obviously we reviewed the Friday game, but we've got the Peterborough game to go over as well from Monday. So I was just wondering really to start with what your feelings about it were, lads. Chris, what are your reflections on it, and what do you think the most important kind of points to come out of it are?
I think it was a good point. I think that's the biggest thing to come out of it. I think there was so much discussion last week, what constitutes as a good weekend. I think we ran a round table on it and we kind of got a bit of a mixed kind of round of answers, actually. It was quite interesting because I think Nick Barnes said as well, Marco Gabardini said that it might not be the end of the world if we lost the game. And a lot of people said, we'd be really happy with 4 points. And we got 4 points. It's really strange because of the pattern of the game. And I think even though if anybody had said before the game, look, there's a 1-1, do you want it? I think everyone would have snapped their hand off and went, yeah, nice one, we'll take that. But especially, in that first half, I think we controlled the game so much that people ended up a little bit disappointed we didn't get all 3. And it was really strange that we ended up getting a really good point and scoring a really good goal and coming from behind. And yet there was a few people kind of disappointed with it, which I look as a good thing because it just shows how far we've come, that we're taking on a promotion rival, somebody above us, somebody who's constantly been in the top 2, top 3 all season. And we go away from home against the best home record in the league. And they've scored like 11 more at home than the next side. And we got a cracking point. So especially a couple of days after, looking at the table as well, I'm chuffed, to be honest, with our work over the Easter weekend.
What about you, Craig? Were you happy with the point? I have to say, at half-time, I was thinking we would go on and win the game. So maybe, I'm part of that group that's slightly disappointed with the point. But what about you?
Yeah, I was one of those who championed taking 4 points over the Easter weekend in the run-up to the game. I think there is certainly lots of positives. We will know the importance of it. The stakes were massive, hence the reason why I think it was billed for us more as a must not lose. I think it would have really put a dent in our promotion bid if we had. But I think looking back at it now, a couple of days out, the character that was shown once again to grind out that result, considering we were 10 minutes away from obviously coming away empty-handed, but I think we were the better side overall. I thought, as Chris rightly said there, we played the majority of the first half in their half. We really were in complete control. We reacted to the conditions well. As you touched on before recording, their pitch obviously isn't great, and the weather certainly didn't help us either. But, I thought beyond that we were calm and composed despite knowing how big the game was. And I think bizarrely, the thing that might have been a bit, unpredicted was the way Peterborough were happy to kind of sit off us. So they seemed very content sitting off Leadbitter and Winchester, presumably, in that hope of winning possession and then catching us on the break. But I thought we were very solid. We dictated the midfield battle early on. But I think the main takeaway, despite having all of that possession, is we just did not create enough chances from open play. And I think perhaps you can attribute that to the conditions. Jones and McGeady, they were noticeably restricted because every time they got the first touch, they were either clattered or the ball had, just bobbled away from them. But I thought despite that, we worked hard. Ross Stewart in particular, I know he's come in for a little bit of criticism, but I thought he'd done well, dragging men out wide, showing some neat touches. Charlie led the line well, but I think, like I say, besides McGeady's blocked shot, we didn't really test them enough in that first half, and perhaps we can be a little fortunate at the end not to go in at half-time 1-0 down after 09's clearance, which I thought Burge was superb for, quick reactions. And you know what, as the second half kicked off, I thought the game was just getting away from us ever so slightly. Peterborough grew into the game, as you would expect. And I think if I am nitpicking, it's ever so slightly, I feel like we should have reacted a little sooner to their substitutions. I know we'll come on that, but once Dembele and Reece Brown came on, I think it sprung them to life, and that's where the game started to get a little bit stretched. We had a let-off when Smodix put one wide, but at that point they were very much in the ascendancy. I feel like we lost our shape a little bit. They exposed McFadden a few times. But I think despite all of that, you've got to have credit going to the manager here, because he reacted immediately once we went 1-0 down. I thought our substitution swung it back in our favour. They allowed us to get 20 yards further upfield, and I thought we got into the game well at that point again. And look, talking about criticism, I know Lyndon Gooch often comes in for it, but I thought he worked hard. Both he and O'Brien really hassled their backline. They kept us pushing forward. Josh Scowen as well does well to nick the ball off Taylor, draws that foul on the edge of the area, and as soon as McGeady steps up, it's only going one place. And at that point, I think that's where Chris is right. That's where the disappointment perhaps comes into it a little bit, because, at that stage, we look the side to win that game. Darren McAnthony touched on it as much. He basically said that we ran all over them once we scored, and he's right, the momentum was with us. But look, most importantly, we've come away unbeaten. It's against a really big side, a big promotion rival. The momentum is with us. Everything still remains in our hand, and we're going to run each other very close to the end of the season. Yeah,
there's been a good bit of chatter in the last couple of days about the kind of maybe a drop-off in the level of performance. And when you look at, our Talking Tactics piece that's on the website at the minute from Brandon Feely, it's really interesting. You look at the lack of clear-cut chances, as you mentioned, Craig. Look at the expected goals, which I know doesn't tell you everything, but when you look at where we had shots and how many clear-cut chances we had as compared to them, there's a good case to be made that we were lucky to get out of it with the point. But Chris, those partnerships that Craig touched on there, the two real key partnerships of Winchester and Leadbitter in the middle, and Ross Stewart and Charlie Wyke up front. How did you feel those were? Because they were key to really creating opportunities for us, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, just on the general play, like you said, in terms of creating chances, I think we've been playing like that for a long time. I think the game against Peterborough and the Oxford game were fairly typical of how we've been playing. It's not out of the ordinary. I think we kind of raised the bar in the away game at Portsmouth, and I think that was a really high standard that I'm not sure we were kind of hitting game after game. But I think I mentioned a couple of times on kind of previous podcasts that I feel like we're a bit of a machine where we're not blowing teams away. We're just kind of methodical. We're efficient. We win games. We get points. We make sure we grind them out. And we've got to remember that Peterborough, in terms of League One, are a fantastic side. They brought Dembele on from the bench. They had good players to bring off the bench. They were the biggest spenders in the summer. And we've gone away from home there and kind of, for most parts, played them off the park. And like you said, the partnerships that I think we had, in the middle of the park, I think Leadbitter and Winchester, I have to say, especially first half, were absolutely fantastic. There's not going to be many better control and performances from midfielders, especially at that level this weekend. I think they were absolutely fantastic. The only slight gripe I might have had with them, but it is really nitpicking because they were fantastic, was that there maybe weren't enough balls forward. But I think Craig kind of touched on it there. The point was that the pitch was awful, which meant we ended up having to play the ball longer and in the air. Every pass along the ground was a bit of a risk. It was windy, the pitch was a bit crap, and we had to kind of modify our play and play it in the air a little bit. And like I said, Stewart and Wyke had to feed off scraps up front. And I'd like to see them in a home game against someone where we really want to go at someone and play 4-4-2, two up front, get balls into the box. And I think that's where they could be effective. But yeah, like I said, I think we've got to remember that Peterborough are a fantastic side. And then for the most part, we've played them off the park.
Absolutely. Other than the free kick, though, I think they had probably the three best chances of the game, though, didn't they? And those three chances all came from a particular area of the pitch, which was our left full-back role. Now, I know we've had plenty of opportunity on the pod to kind of lay into Callum McFadden, as probably more than anyone else. But it was a worry, and that is where those opportunities came from. Chris mentioned the one that came off Luke O'Nien, or was it you that mentioned the one that came off Luke O'Nien and nearly ended up in the back of the net, but there were a couple before that as well. Was that the clear weak link for you in the side that let Peterborough get on top
I would say
times
so.
in the game?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I suppose you've got to give Peterborough an awful lot of credit for that because they've done the homework in advance, and they had an enormous amount of pace down that right-hand flank. I think obviously with Callum McFadden, look, you can talk about this until you go blue in the face, and I think because those failings or his shortcomings, if you will, they're all too familiar. It's very repetitive, and look, the likelihood is it's going to continue, and it's going to raise the concerns that we've all got. I would say in his defence, he has had some elements of good play recently, but I mean, ultimately that was another uninspiring defensive performance. And when you know that there is going to be times where you're going to have your backs to the wall, Peterborough were in the ascendancy at some stage in the second half for a good 15-20 minutes, and you know that you've got to ride that storm. He's not the person you really want in there, I don't think. And I mean, there was a moment in the first half where McGeady just walked away from him shaking his head. And I mean, look, I've got nothing against the lad. At this stage, I'm probably Sunderland's biggest happy clapper. And I'm absolutely convinced he is playing to the best of his abilities. But for where we want to be now, it's just not good enough, really. And there's no shame in that. There really is no shame in that. I think it's reasonable to suggest that if Denver Hume's around all season, he's nothing but a backup player for us. And like I said, Peterborough done the homework. They attacked him with pace. But yeah, I mean, God forbid, every time that they come down, like I said, he was the weak link, and it was heart in the mouth moment a good few times. But it's just one of those things, really. Until Denver Hume returns to full fitness, he is going to play a part in the next 8 games. So whether we like it or lump it, I think we're just going to have to try and remain as calm as we can and hope for the best, really. But yeah, they'd certainly targeted.
But my biggest problem with that, Craig, was that for at least 10 minutes before the goal, you could just see it coming. It was an accident waiting to happen.
The warning signs were there.
Yeah, and I know Hume's coming back to fitness, and he waited till 20 minutes left to put him on. But I mean, even Conor McLaughlin, I mean, he's a fullback.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have him playing on the left of the back four than McFadden. But even if he doesn't do it from the start, fair enough. Go with McFadden. He's put in a lot of effort. He's taken some hits, but. I mean, like I said, the signs were there for at least 10-15 minutes before the goal.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. And I think, like I said, just in terms of at the top of the pod where I mentioned about nitpicking, I think once Peterborough had made their subs, we were a little slow to react at that stage. And you could feel like it certainly swung in their favour for that 15-20 minute period. And the game just got a little bit too far out of distance for us at that point. And yeah, it was basically waiting for when it was going to happen. And you're quite right, I think. Typically, the way I look at it, if a player is on the bench, then, rightfully speaking, they might need to come in because, say, McFadden could have been, injured in the warm-up or anything like that. McLaughlin, in fairness, he would have done an absolutely fine job, I'm sure of it, because when he came on, he was okay. He's solid. He's not spectacular, but you get a good shift out of him. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, that is really my gripe, is that the warning signs were there. I think Johnson had just hoped that we were going to weather that storm, but it was just one step too far, I think.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it does bring us on neatly to those substitutions, though, because that was something we've never seen before in such an important match where you bring 4 subs on at once and then another one a couple of minutes later. That was wholesale changes, almost half of the team in one go. But it worked in the end. I mean, a few minutes later, we won that free kick. Do you see that move by Johnson, Chris, as being the absolute decisive moment in that game in terms of us getting that point?
Fair play to Johnson. I mean, he needed balls to do that, really, and he did it. It was obvious at that point we needed something to change. We needed a spark. I wasn't sure about Jones coming off mine, but I mean, 4 subs on 71 minutes was what I've got in my notes, and especially in the forward positions where he brought O'Brien on for Stewart and Gooch on for Jones. It was really strange because at the time I thought, well, okay, we need a spark, we need something, 4 changes at the same time, 1-0 down. But it was really odd because they were brought on 71 minutes. We got the free kick on 80 minutes. And from the substitutions up to the free kick where McGeady scored, I thought we were a mess. I thought we were all over the place. I thought I thought that the players at times, looked confused on who was playing where and what they were supposed to be doing. And actually, Peterborough could have quite easily gone 2 up in that 10 minutes. But in the end, it's kind of the life of a manager, isn't it? He kind of rolls the dice, and then we get a free kick 10 minutes later and score and draw the game, and he looks great. So he went for it. He had the balls to do it. So fair play, and we probably deserved a bit of luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, credit to Josh Gowan as well, I think, who came on and obviously got himself in the position to win that free kick. He went down nice and easily on the edge of the box.
It was his first touch of the ball as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's what he does bring, is that kind of tenacity and that kind of terrier kind of spirit to the midfield, where he gets in amongst it. And I was watching the match with my wife Craig, and I said to her, when he was fouled, I said if Aiden McGeady could pick up the ball and put it anywhere on the pitch to take a free kick, it would be exactly where that ball was. Were you like me, sat there expecting the ball to go into the back of the net?
Yeah, I think it was just one of those sort of like instinctive moments that it was McGeady territory. And it was funny because I was reading back through the Sunderland message board earlier, kind of going over some of the views of the game and stuff. And I didn't pick up on the comment at the time, but apparently the co-commentator, Danny Gabardon, had mentioned that it was like a good free kick to give away, which obviously, like, what sort of research have you done, mate? You do not give Aiden McGeady that territory. If you get the ball over the wall, it's going one place. And I even said to my little girl in the room at the time, I says, look, there's a good possibility that Daddy's going to shout, get in a second. So you just need to brace yourself. But no, I think, like you said, in that run-up, credit to Scowen, because again, he's one of those players, I think, that he does an awful lot that sometimes goes unnoticed, but he just gets stuck in, doesn't he? He's not afraid to just jump into anything, and he wins, as you say, a free kick in an absolutely fantastic position. And yeah, I mean, as soon as McGeady steps up, it's going one place. I know that there was a few suggestions that the keeper was struggling at the time. I think that he'd had like a rib injury or something like that, but I'm convinced even if that keeper is 100%, he's still not going to save that. But I suppose the disappointment, the slight tinge of disappointment you've got at that point is with 10 minutes remaining, is that we don't capitalise on that. I mean, Chris rightly said that the shape had went a little out the window. We were disjointed at that point. In terms of some of the people who may have benefited from that, I think McGeady was one of them, because of obviously the torrid time he'd had out wide, because of the way that watered the pitch. It was cutting up badly. As soon as we brought him in centrally, I thought that kind of opened them up a little bit more. And again, like I said, I mean, by God, you put your trust in Lee Johnson to obviously make those decisions, but you just wonder perhaps if we'd maybe done things a little bit earlier, would we be talking about 3 points? But I think all in all, we've still got to look at it and say it's a fair result.
Absolutely. So looking ahead to Charlton at the weekend then, in the context of the game against Peterborough, Chris, what do you think will be the kind of the biggest lessons that Lee Johnson will take from that performance that can feed into the upcoming game?
I don't know, because it seems like Lee Johnson has got a completely different plan for each game. Whether, in midfield, like I said, against Peterborough, he had 2 players who could hold the ball, which were Winchester and Ledbetter. They weren't going to charge forward. They were going to hold their position, stay in front of the back 4, give us a bit of protection. And, I think he probably learned a lot about Stewart and Wyke up front, because about 10 minutes in, I think it was like 9 minutes in or something, long ball played forward, Stewart nodded it down, and Wyke had a half volley from the edge of the box. And I actually thought at that point, we could be in business here with these two. But then they didn't get that type of service again. I think that was one of the few balls that Stewart and Wyke could actually play off each other. And we didn't do it anymore, unfortunately. So I've got a feeling Lee Johnson might be kind of showing them clips of that and saying, look, if we're in trouble at the back, or if we want to mix it up a bit, look, that's the way to do it. Make sure you find his head. Wyke stands within 5-10 yards of him, or vice versa, and we might get a bit from it. But yeah, I think he learned a bit there, and I think he learned in terms of his substitutions. I think obviously being a goal down, and the team that he set up and the shape that he set up with, it was more of a rigid, like I said, with Ledbetter and Winchester sitting. When he changed that to Scowen and Power, because we needed a bit of urgency, because we went a goal down, that kind of changed the impetus, of our play, and we were kind of pushing forward a bit more and getting the ball forward a bit quicker. So, but it's at home against Charlton. They haven't lost in the last 5, won 3 in the last 5, so that they're on a good run. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, whether he gives us a bit of protection against the back four rather than going gung-ho. Aidan O'Brien could come back in to hold it up a bit more as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But the thing with Lee Johnson, which is completely different to Phil Parkinson, you just can't predict what Lee Johnson's going to do from game to game. And I like it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you made a good point about that chance early on for Charlie Wyke, because I think if it hadn't got the deflection, it would have been very difficult for the keeper to stop it. And, you know, it was a lovely clip ball forward from Aiden McGeady, actually, and you could see he looked up and he played the perfect ball, and he knew, you know, he could see the pattern of play open up in front of him, and certainly that is something that Johnson, I'm sure, will want to build on. Craig, so who do you see coming into the lineup at the weekend? Is it time for Hume to be brought in?
Providing he gets through the next few days unscathed in training, and that he's fully rested and recovered, you would imagine that the coach and staff are going to monitor him very thoroughly over the course of the next few days. But I think if he's at 100%, then yeah, absolutely no doubt. Because when he came on, he just kind of settled us down a little bit, which I suppose there is a bit of an irony there that I'm talking about how we've lost our shape, and as Chris mentioned earlier. But he's just got more positional awareness. I think that he relaxes perhaps Aiden McGeady a little bit more, in terms of obviously McGeady can know that he's got license to roam forward and not always necessarily worry that he's going to have to sort of track back and obviously say, you know, cover McFadden all of the time. And I think that's going to certainly perhaps even bring more out of him. Other than that, I think it could be just business as usual, maybe just the same team, because, I mean, Charlton, they're actually in really good form at the moment, which is somewhat of a surprise considering it was, perhaps only a month ago or so where people had, you know, kind of finished them as a mid-table end of season prediction. But, you know, Nigel Adkins, credit to him, he's come in, he's done a good job. From what I've seen of them in recent weeks, they look really positive. They seem to be a little bit more structured in terms of, you know, being able to sort of like hold a game out. They're not leaking all of those goals that there were. I think they conceded 2 really silly goals against Wimbledon a few weeks back, but when you look at them against Doncaster the other day, they look to be getting the basics right now. So perhaps they are riding that crest of a new manager bounce, but we've just got to make sure that that obviously we take the game to them, really. I think, again, it might be cautious and cagey because Charlton are a good side. There's a lot of good sides that we still have left to play. But as per really the past 2 games, we've just got to make sure that, you know, once we do get into a position in the final third, that obviously we capitalise on every chance that we get. I think it was important that obviously Jones did come off. Again, people might think that's a bit of a strange one, but we're managing his fitness well because he's got a crucial part to play. So by giving him an extra couple of days rest, you would imagine he'll be in the starting lineup immediately. I think there's an argument to be had that Ledbetter might be involved again, because in that first half against Peterborough, we certainly dictated the tempo. He's very calm in the way that he played. He settled things down. But as Chris says, it's one of those, you know, we could talk about this non-stop, and then at 2:00 on Saturday afternoon when the team comes out, you could see something completely different. I think that's just obviously a testament to Lee Johnson. He holds all the cards very close to his chest. He doesn't give much to give away. But the most important thing, I think, for us now is, regardless of whatever way we play or perform, we've just got to make sure that we take maximum points. There's not really much margin for error now. It's very unlikely that we're going to, you know, win 8 from 8. But if we are to drop points, we've just got to make sure that obviously it's not going to be on a weekend where teams can break away from us. Absolutely.
I mean, I keep looking at that league table. I go on it at least 3 times a day. And it's not changed. It won't change until there's another game played. But yeah, it's so tantalising, isn't it, with this many games left? I know it's a bit of a cliche, but these are the games that these players are going to want to play in as well, aren't they? You know, it's 8 cup finals, and one thing that you can give credit to these lads for now is that, you know, they seem fully invested in the job at hand. And that's not necessarily to say that they weren't last season or the season before, but there seems to be an extra edge to this Sunderland side that, you know, never say a die attitude. And it is quite reminiscent of the Roy Keane season. I know obviously when we went 1-0 down the other day, the warning signs were repeatedly there, but you still feel that we are capable of grinding out those results. We've really developed that ability to do that now, even if we aren't performing at our best. So, look, just take one step at a time, perhaps steadily improve on Monday's performance, and hopefully come the end of the season, we're going to be in the top 2. Aye, absolutely. You confident, Chris?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I'm going back to what? December. It's only the 7th of April, but you go back to Christmas and the New Year. And like I said, if anybody had said, look, we'll be in a 3-horse race with 8 games to go, I either would have laughed at them, but I probably would have laughed at them then snapped their hand off. So, just the fact that we're actually in the mix and we're in this promotion hunt and it's in our own hands. We win our games in hand, we're top of the table and we're the best side in the league. And we can go up as champions, which is a fantastic position to be in. This is what we all want. I'm just going to try and enjoy it while we're in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think enjoying it and enjoying the expectation of us being able to pick up results every week, it's something we haven't had for quite a long while. So thanks for your time this afternoon, lads. Just a quick shout out to another team that faces a cup final every week at the minute, which is the ladies team. The lasses won 5-1 against Sheffield on Sunday at the Academy of Light. Eve Blakey got a hat-trick. They've got Burnley coming up next weekend in the next round of the cup, with the chance of playing Man United awaiting the victor of that. So it's a really big week for everyone at the football club. It's going to be a fun month ahead, I think. So it just remains for me to say thanks for listening. Please like and share us on your podcast app of choice. And yeah, cheers and away the lads.